Herb Denenberg uncovers the gem game tonight.
Good morning. This is the CBS Early Morning News. I'm Jane Wallace, and we're glad you're with us this Wednesday, the 13th of February. Here's our top story. There's been another string of hotel fires in the Philippines. Flames and smoke destroyed the 11th-story Regent of Manila, a luxury hotel in a bayside suburb of the capital. The midnight blaze has taken at least 17 lives. One report puts the figure at 24 dead, and fire officials say the death toll could climb to 50 once all the rooms are opened. We have a report now from Gabby Tabinar in the Philippines.
Of the known dead so far, 3 have been identified as Americans. Officials said there may be more Americans who perished, but this could not be immediately confirmed. The bodies of the dead were recovered from different floors of the luxury hotel that burned for nearly 3 hours before firemen controlled the blaze. Firefighters struggled through heavy smoke to pull bodies out of the blackened debris. One of the victims, like this guest, died on the ledge before he could be rescued. At one point, witnesses saw a foreigner screaming from another ledge for help that came too late. About 18 people suffered injuries. Arthur Aligar, an American from Honolulu, was sleeping in his hotel room when the fire broke out.
And the fire was so hot on the second floor that they couldn't get up to where I was, so I had to wait until they had subdued the flames. Then they got ladders up on the roof, and then firemen came up and assisted me down off the 6th floor.
The fire that struck the Regent Hotel was the 4th major hotel fire in the Philippines in as many months. Within an 18-day period from late October to early November last year, 3 big hotels were hit by fire, killing 41 people, many of them Americans. Fire department officials have not drawn any connection between these fires. Gabby Tabunyar for CBS News, Manila.
South Korea's President Chun faces something new this morning, what looks like a vigorous opposition party. The New Democratic Party, new in fact as well as in name, was formed only 3 months ago. But when all the votes are counted, the NDP is expected to claim 50 elected assembly seats. Chun's party will have 88. The NDP calls Chun a military dictator. A London military magazine says the United States has, in effect, revoked New Zealand's security clearance. Jane's Defense Weekly reports that the U.S. has stopped New Zealand from getting top-level intelligence on the Soviet Union. It's retaliation for the refusal of New Zealand to let U.S. Navy ships make ports of call, unless it's guaranteed the ships are not carrying nuclear weapons. The Reagan administration is smarting over a slap from Capitol Hill on American policy in El Salvador, over a study that says the administration has been less than candid with Congress. Deborah Potter reports.
Administration officials angrily rejected a congressional report charging that U.S. involvement in El Salvador is quietly escalating, much as it did in Vietnam. The State Department said the limit of 55 military advisors has not been violated and denied that American troops have been getting into combat, saying the policy against it is strictly enforced. Officials also rejected charges that Congress was misled about aid to El Salvador and that money earmarked for economic assistance to the people has been used to help the military.
It is unfair and inaccurate to charge that our strategy in El Salvador is overwhelmingly military. We categorically reject the assertion that Congress has been deceived by the administration.
Congress may have fired first, but the battle over aid to El Salvador has barely begun. The Reagan administration, which has asked for another increase, is preparing a new white paper on the communist threat in Central America. And a report due out today is expected to cite the improvement in the human rights situation in El Salvador, both to be used as ammunition in the coming fight on Capitol Hill. Deborah Potter, CBS News, the State Department.
A private report by the Center for Defense Information says the Pentagon is trying to raise the secret portion of its research and procurement budget by 52%. The report says that's to acquire new high-tech weapons. An analyst for the center says some of the items are extremely sensitive. They very likely include the stealth bomber. Anti-abortionists hoping to win a constitutional amendment banning abortion are beginning to distribute a controversial documentary on Capitol Hill. The film, called Silent Scream, shows a 12-week-old fetus being aborted. Activists intend to give the videotape to every member of Congress and the Supreme Court. But pro-abortionists say the film's narration is highly misleading by claiming that the 2-inch-long fetus recoils in pain from the procedure. The parents of convicted murderer Wayne Williams say that they hope A CBS docudrama on the Atlanta killings will help free their son. But jurors say the movie did not include enough of the actual evidence used to convict Williams. Bruce Hall has our report.
Following the controversial Atlanta child murders docudrama last night, the CBS station in Atlanta broadcast an hour-long program from the courtroom where Wayne Williams was convicted. Much of it centered on the crucial fiber evidence.
The movie really doesn't do justice to the fiber evidence. There were patented fibers that were only made by one carpet manufacturer in Dalton that were very rare and that were found on the bodies that came from Wayne's room.
And that green rug where most of the fibers came from is still in the Williams home, along with the family dog that appeared near death in the movie.
Now, those jurors didn't understand that fiber theory. No more than my dog out there in that backyard.
But one of the jurors disagreed.
It was convincing, but it didn't play a very big part in me making my decision.
The docudrama received failing marks for accuracy from most on the program.
In terms of factual information, the movie, in my opinion, is far more fictional than it is factual.
All this horror of child killing is the kind of sensational thing that's designed to get controversy and ratings.
Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
A soggy storm is muffling the east in snow, with 19 deaths nationwide attributed to stormy weather since Saturday. In Knoxville, a record number of trees has been cut down after blocking roads or downing power lines. Over 8 inches of snow fell during that day-long storm. The lights are on again in the Pacific Northwest, but for up to an hour yesterday, all was darkness in parts of western Montana, Wyoming, California, and Oregon. An electric breaker failed in Oregon, leaving Montana's largest cities in the dark. No injuries or crimes were attributed to that blackout. Florida's firefighters are mopping up today after brush fires churned by gusty winds burned across a 2-square-mile area outside Miami. No one was hurt, no buildings were involved, but 9 miles of the Florida Turnpike and a stretch of Interstate 75 had to be closed for a while because heavy smoke made it difficult for drivers to see. In New Jersey, firefighters worked through the day and night battling an inferno at a paint factory. One man was killed and a worker was tossed through a window by a series of explosions. Officials say the toll would have been much higher if other workers hadn't been out on a coffee break. The cause of the fire is being investigated. The cast and crew of the comedy series Cheers didn't work last night because they'd lost a friend. The actor who plays the coach, bartender Ernie Pantuso, died suddenly yesterday. Actor Nick Colasanto was recuperating from a heart ailment at his Los Angeles home when he suffered a massive heart attack while watching television. He was 61 years old. Colasanto, who is also an accomplished director, had been nominated for an Emmy on 2 occasions for his part in the series Cheers. Colasanto once described his coach character as innocent and sweet. He certainly was well-liked. Now here's a look at the day ahead.
Saudi Arabian King Fahd meets with Defense Secretary Weinberger and with Treasury Secretary James Baker. And also in the news this Wednesday, February 13th, the East Germans hold ceremonies to remember the World War II bombing of Dresden 40 years ago. And the Reagans leave Washington for a 5-day stay at their California ranch.
Lucky Leaf Pie Filling, the very best that nature has to offer. Lucky Leaf pie fillings come ready to serve, so they're easy to use. Just pour into a pie shell or use as a topping on your favorite dessert. Your family will love our pie fillings so much, they'll want to try all the great tasting varieties. And for you calorie counters, try our light pie fillings. Lucky Leaf, the very best that nature has to offer.
The only thing you stand to gain by putting off joining the YMCA is weight. On the other hand, look at all you have to gain by joining. Call your local Y for information. The YMCA. Don't put it off.
Special offers are available through February 13th. Call any YMCA in the tri-state area for information.
Some investors have learned it's hard to make money these days just following the herd. They've seen that old-fashioned techniques don't always seem to work anymore. And that listening to yesterday's ideas isn't enough in today's financial markets. More and more, the ambitious investor is following the firm with rock-solid resources that's leading the way to the future. Prudential-based securities. Follow a leader.
At Sims, you'll never see this word, because Sims represents it off price over 200 world-famous designer and brand names in men's, women's, and children's clothing. There's never a reason for a sale. You can always buy men's current, nationally advertised $235 suits for $139. Women's $140 designer outfits for $79. At Sims, an educated consumer is our best customer.
At Madison Square Garden in New York, it was the night of nights at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. The final runaround when the winner, the best in show, was selected. Look carefully, it's the Scottie. No, pardon us, it's Champion Brayburn's Close Encounter. That's that dog's name. It's nothing new for her. She's already won 183 other awards. She's from Florida, owned by Sonny Novick of Plantation Acres. Now, following that dog, we go to a close encounter of the cloudy kind. Good morning, Steve.
That same dog, Jane, this morning is saying, does that A train make a stop in Miami? Got to get out of here. That's because of the weather only. The Northeast has really had some foul weather, and you can see the clouds right behind me. Just swept through most of the northeastern United States. In New York City alone yesterday, the winds were clocked at 50 miles per hour during the afternoon, and sheets of hail were reported around New York and New Jersey and some portions of Pennsylvania. Bad news, but most of that weather is over. It could be some bad news later today for up in New England, because it's raining lightly to moderately now, and the coast of Maine could be in store for the kind of weather that New York City had yesterday. 34 in New York now, about 34 degrees in Richmond and portions of eastern Virginia. But look at how cold. It's almost like a triangle shape. Cold down in Miami, 38 degrees. The same story, almost as cold in New Orleans. It's about 33 now. 37 degrees in Dallas, Texas. The cold air really pouring in behind all the rain in the east and the snow in the Ohio Valley. The Kentucky-Virginia border had 20 inches of snow by last count about midnight last night. Really tranquil, less chaotic in the west. Beautiful weather in the southwest, about 75 degrees at least in Los Angeles by mid-afternoon. Today's forecast for the rest of the country, you can see the Central Plains still in great shape from northern Texas all the way up through the Dakotas. There's some clouds around Iowa and northern Missouri. Really shouldn't be more than just a dusting of light snow today, so it's not anything ominous. The jet stream is really shooting the cold air in, and it will be cold once more to set up the beginning of the weekend. Cold and snowy eastward, sunny and warm. That's going to stay for a while, especially west of the Rockies. That's a look at today's weather. Here's a look at some temperatures and forecasts for some locations around the nation. In Chicago, partly cloudy and 28 degrees, but the wind gusts were up to 30 to 40 miles per hour this morning and maybe this afternoon. 34 degrees and mostly cloudy in St. Louis, 76 and sunny in Los Angeles, 63 and sunshine in San Francisco. More on Wednesday's weather on CBS Morning News. Jane?
Thanks, Steve. Now we go to Ken Pruitt, who has some low notes for the high-tech industry. Good morning,
Yes, indeed.
Ken.
Good morning. When the market opens later this morning, we'll see if the damage to the high-tech sector of the market will continue. It was uncomfortable for a lot of people yesterday. Data General plunged nearly $15 a share to 58 3/4 on expectations of sharply lower profits. Digital equipment fell nearly $5 a share to 117. DEC also announced that it's dropping its Rainbow line of personal computers. And that bluest of blue chips, IBM, which fell 3 3/4 Monday, went down another 1 3/4. Analysts expect a flat first quarter for Big Blue. Barry Berlin at Shearson says that's the chance you take when you buy high-tech stocks. He's quite optimistic about the overall market this year. The Dow Industrial Average is at 1276 this morning, up half a point yesterday. The Federal Open Market Committee, the Federal Reserve's policy-making body, meets again today to consider the course of interest rates. Drexel Burnham chief economist Richard Hoey expects the Fed to stand pat, but to leave the door open to a credit tightening later on if the money supply gets any higher above the target range. For the rest of the year, he looks for a gradual upward drift in interest rates, but not enough to do any real damage to the financial markets. Gold is up $1 an ounce this morning at $302.80. Silver is up a penny at $622. The dollar is down a little bit this morning after hitting record highs yesterday.
Is it going to meet one-on-one with the pound today, do you think?
That's what I start. Maybe not today. It was at $1.08 yesterday, so it may take a few days, but that's almost a given. To people who deal in foreign exchange, that we'll see.
Sooner or later,
we'll see parity. We're already 2,000 Italian lira, 10 French francs.
Amazing. Thank you, Ken. In sports this morning, a rookie set the pace in the NHL All-Star game. Mario Lemieux led the Wales Conference to victory, hitting the left corner of the net with a low-wrist shot. Wayne Gretzky chimed in for the Campbell Conference with a third-period goal from the left side, but Lemieux responded 1 minute later, breaking past 3 players to score again, putting Wales on top for good. Lemieux, the 19-year-old Pittsburgh Penguins center, was most valuable player with 2 goals and an assist. In basketball, Clyde Drexler of the Trailblazers misses, but Sam Bowie follows through as the Blazers beat the Celtics. Drexler doesn't always miss. He drives in for that slam. And Darnell Valentine, on the eve of his day, leads a break, passes through Danny Ainge's legs to Michael Thompson. It's Valentine again, scoring over Cedric Maxwell as Portland beats Boston by 8. Valentine was high scorer with 23. Now here's Bill Gilliland with more scores.
Okay, Jane, and while we're talking basketball, elsewhere in the NBA, the Lakers down the Clippers, the Bucks stop the Nets. The Nuggets trounce the Hawks by 24 points. The Bulls beat the Pistons in overtime. The Mavericks won over the Cavaliers, the Rockets over the Suns, the Spurs over the Kings, the Sixers knocked off the Pacers, the Jazz defeated the Warriors, and it was the Sonics over the Bullets. In college play, St. John's beat Columbia, and Missouri upset Kansas. This portion of the CBS Early Morning News is sponsored by AT&T, a leader in telephones, information systems, long distance, and computers.
While we can't prevent all the things that happen to your phones, it's nice to know AT&T phones are pretty indestructible. And if you lease your phone and take reasonable care of them, if anything ever does go wrong, we'll replace them at one of our AT&T phone centers or just call toll-free. You can even exchange your phones for new colors anytime. So if you take care of the phones you lease, AT&T will take care of you. AT&T Consumer Sales and Service.
This is an important message no one 65 or older on Medicare should miss. You recognize this? It's from Medicare. And for 17 straight years, a notice like this has been sent to people like you, telling you that your Medicare coverage will be cut back, that you'll have to pay more out of your own pocket, that now for a 150-day hospitalization, you'll have to pay as much as $15,400. There's nothing you can do about Medicare's cutbacks, but you can protect yourself right now by calling this toll-free number for this notice about secure care, the quality Medicare supplement insurance from National Home Life. Secure Care will pay 100% of that $15,400 for you. So call now and find out how Secure Care can help pay the bills Medicare does not pay.
Wouldn't it be nice to drink a bowl of fruit?
Wouldn't it be nice to drink a bowl of fruit?
A juicy, 100% natural, delicious bowl of real fruit with no sugar added, no extra water added, no anything artificial added. Just juicy 100% juice from juicy 100% fruit. New Juicy Juice from Libby's Juicy Juice. Drink a bowl of fruit.
And now on the CBS Early Morning News, here's today's weather forecast. Snow and slick roads will continue today across the Great Lakes and northern Appalachians, while heavy rain will be moving through coastal Maine. The southeast will be drying out, but chilly. The place to be is Southern California, where it'll be sunny with temperatures in the mid-70s. Now here again is Jane Wallace.
Thank you, Bill, and we're back with the CBS Early Morning News. Here are the headlines on this Wednesday morning. The death toll is at least 17 in the latest Philippine hotel fire, the 4th hotel blaze in as many months. At least 3 Americans were killed in the smoky fire at the Regent of Manila Hotel. One report puts the death toll at 24. Fire officials fear they may find as many as 50 bodies when they open up all the rooms. The administration is reacting angrily to a congressional caucus report on Salvadoran aid, denying that money earmarked for economic assistance is going to the military. The State Department also says the limit of 55 advisors has not been violated and that Congress is not being deceived, as the report alleges. The Canadian government has been jolted by the resignation of Defense Minister Robert Coates. The resignation comes after an Ottawa newspaper alleged Coates visited a West German nightclub last May that featured nude dancers and pornographic films. The article said security rules may have been breached. Prime Minister Mulroney says he has determined no security interests have been threatened. The original investigation charged that one of the biggest cases of child sexual abuse on record had occurred in the quiet town of Jordan, Minnesota. Yesterday, the state dropped the case entirely, calling that investigation tragically improper. Karen Stone reports.
The 15-month-long probe into sexual abuse of children, which polarized residents in this northern Minnesota town of 2,600, is over. State officials say the county investigation was mishandled and that no further charges will be filed. The investigation grew after a Jordan trash collector who had a history of child sexual abuse was arrested. By last summer, 24 adults had been charged with abusing more than 40 children. There were also allegations of a child pornography ring and even murder. State officials say they found no evidence to support those claims. They did say that cases of alleged abuse were so hastily investigated by local authorities that evidence was now too weak for criminal prosecution. The state findings leave town residents divided.
They figure they're all guilty. About 90% of them, I'd say.
I think that most of these people have been wrongly arrested and accused.
But state officials say some children in Scott County were sexually abused. Their cases are now being handled privately in family court. Officials also made recommendations to try to assure that the confusion that occurred in Scott County does not happen again. Karen Stone, CBS News, Jordan, Minnesota.
A former real estate salesman faces life in prison for a series of rapes that terrorized Spokane, Washington 4 years ago. Kevin Coe was convicted yesterday for a second time of 3 of the 40 rapes believed committed by the so-called South Hills rapist. After the decision, one of the Seattle jurors talked about the defendant.
He was very calm, cool, collected, very, very controlled, and that upset me. I didn't help by him at all.
Did you think he was too calm and cool?
Too calm, too collected. He didn't sweat.
Coe's first conviction was overturned because of mistakes made by the judge and prosecution. One final note. Police in Canyon, Texas are looking for a prankster who put a tractor in gear and set it off by itself on a very destructive course. It traveled hither and yon, breaking through 21 fences, 2 barns, crossing a road several times, circling an electric tower, and finally hitting an abandoned car and stopping. The understatement of the year may have come from a police official who said that, quote, it did a lot of damage. We'll be right back.
Business travelers are waking up to the good deal they get at Howard Johnson.
Good morning.
A recent survey was positively eye-opening. Our guests rated our message and wake-up service higher than Best Western guests rated theirs. Our room decor better than Holiday Inn guests. Our staff more efficient than Ramada's. Towels thicker, too. People with a nose for business are finding the nearly 500 Howard Johnson hotels and lodges a good deal. And a good deal more.
I'm starved. What are you having?
How about the turkey croquettes?
How about a personal computer? Who are you? You're not my regular waiter. I'm Ralph. I like surprising people.
Nice-looking machine. Sharp graphics.
Runs all the top software.
Who makes it?
Oh, NCR. It's the NCR PC4. Surprised?
Well, no, NCR has been in computers for years.
I'd like to order.
I know. Turkey croquettes.
So, the NCR personal computer. Surprised?
Yes.
A better computer. It's exactly what you'd expect from NCR.
I'm using kitchen chemistry to show some friends who don't use Polident just how great it cleans. Look at this food stain.
What a mess.
Yep. Cherries, blueberries, coffee, and tea.
Polident cleans that. I'll switch.
Watch. My super strength Polident has super cleaning power. See?
Wow, it's clean as a whistle. From now on, I use Polident.
Me too. Polident's terrific.
Like the Big Mouth says, super strength Polident Green gets tough stains clean.
What's wrong, Guy? Cat food got you down? Well, we're gonna make you a happy cat. Think happy. Harder. Come on, you can do it. He's got it.
Get happy. Just thinking about Happy Cat brand cat food makes any cat happy. 'Cause all day long, Happy Cat stays moist and meaty tasting in the bowl.
Happy Guy? Oh, I think he's been practicing.
Make your cat a happy cat.
In our footnotes this morning, when King Fahd of Saudi Arabia wants to chat with former President Carter, he doesn't just pick up a phone. In an example of royal or presidential treatment, Fahd dispatched his own private jet yesterday to America's Georgia to bring Carter back to Washington, where they could talk in person. Teddy Kennedy Jr. is touring the nation for the National Office on Disability. The senator's son, who lost a leg to cancer when he was 12, says discrimination against the disabled is more profound than racism or sexism. And George Burns is embarking on a new television project. At 89, the comedian's doing a pilot for a CBS series called The George Burns Comedy Hour. This time, he plays himself. Speaking of, oh God, it's Steve again with another look at the weather, although I'm still waiting for that Rocky to score another goal in that game of hooky.
Oh, as they say, and Steve Baskerville as himself,
yes.
Right? All right, weather-wise this morning, we do have some weather woes, but I don't want to paint the picture that everywhere you see is like this. This is in Atlanta, Georgia, and they're slipping and sliding all over the south, and the only thing that's really unique about this is that it's not supposed to happen down there or anywhere in the south this time of year. The weather gets bad, but really across Kentucky and portions of Tennessee as well as northern Georgia, the winds have been bad, the rain. Only the kids are enjoying it, and they're getting an up-close look at this kind of snowfall as they zoom through. But here are the clouds as they move in this direction up towards northern New England, and for the most part, the Southland really dries out today. None of the bad weather that you've heard about for the last several in a row. The radar sites reporting in are showing that most of the rain is scattered up here in the east, and most of the snow is just a little pocket around western Nebraska. That really isn't going to amount to very much, maybe a dusting or an inch or so, winding up in northern Missouri and portions of Iowa. But there's the snowfall wrapped around the storm. Snow still widespread across Illinois, portions of Indiana, especially in Ohio. The Illinois snow really isn't showing up, but there will be some light flurries most of the day. But region by region, here's the way Wednesday afternoon looks. It should be much better for those of us who live in the east, from Pittsburgh to portions of Delaware and Maryland. Maybe some snow falling in western and central portions of New York and Pennsylvania. The rain is over, some very light flurries left behind, but the heavy rain will be confined to the coast of Maine, so play it cool and be careful, especially in the early morning hours. The Midwest, it's getting warmer actually, and the weather is much better, although you can see the snow is still there floating across Iowa. Dubuque and Des Moines will have snowfall today, 29 degrees, and maybe a little light snow in Omaha, Nebraska, but for the most part, it's looking real good. The South, once more, just to recap everything, cold again in Miami and portions of southern Florida, 60 degrees in Miami. That's almost 20 degrees cooler than it was a week ago. 45 degrees today in Atlanta without snow or rain, but mostly 40s and 50s across most of the heart of the South. As we approach the west, nothing but tranquil conditions, not chaotic at all, from Reno to Phoenix to Los Angeles and up across to northern Utah. 13 below in clear skies in Fairbanks, much colder than that up in Barrow, and a blizzard-like condition will continue around Juneau, maybe about 6 inches of additional snow. Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, partly